Thank you.
Blind by that.
Yeah.
All right. My name is Jesse Stewart. I'm a deputy director at SLC Public Utilities. I can answer any questions that you might have regarding what's going on with public utilities, but really, I think the main topic tonight is going to be kind of the end of flood season. I don't know if you guys were all have been watching that, probably not as closely as I have, or some folks from the fire department, but I was there carefully. Kind of started off with a bang with some flood Immigration Creek. Fire department actually helped us resolve that issue by using heavy rescue to help remove the barrier that was clogged. That was a big metal plate that was in the wrong position. After that, the weather really cooperated and the streams really came down in a nice, even manner. We've kind of prepared for the worst. We had mitigation plans for all the different creeks coming through the city. Did a lot of monitoring, but because the weather was so cooperative, it didn't get too hot. It just kind of went warm, cold, and things just came off in a nice steady. So really the final thing we're looking at, and really for this, the Glendale neighborhood, is really what's going on with the Jordan River. And so that's kind of one of the final things we're always looking at. All the creeks from the city drain into the Jordan River, and then you have all the Jordan River coming from Utah Lake. So it flows north from Utah Lake to Great Salt Lake. So we're always watching that, but you all probably are aware of what's called the Surplus Canal over at the golf course. So really that's where the majority of the Jordan River, upper Jordan as we call it, the upstream flows, go down the Surplus Canal out to Gilbert Bay. And then we reserve the lower Jordan to take in the 4 creeks from the city so we can manage those flows and mitigate any impacts on the lower Jordan. So the Surplus Canal really is an integral part of water management here in the valley. So we're continuing to watch it. We're not really that concerned about the lower Jordan at this point. Big and Little Cottonwood Creeks are the main creeks that come into the upper Jordan. Those have just been a steady 300, 400 TFS. We haven't had to release water from Utah Lake. That was kind of the drought's been a good thing this year with the record snowpack. With the drought, we had a lot of capacity in the Jordan River and also in Great Salt Lake, which is the backwater. And then the soil was so dry, it sucked up a lot of the water that was down. So we're continuing to watch Utah Lake. It's about a half a foot below what's called compromise level. Compromise levels, it's a legal level at Utah Lake that we have to start releasing water out of it. Otherwise, it starts flooding out around Utah Lake. But a half a foot in Utah Lake is 100,000 or thousands, tens of thousands of acre feet of water. So there's still a lot of water out there to be held back in Utah Lake. But if we do need to release, we can bring it down to Jordan and send 3,400 CFS cubic feet per second. Think of a basketball as about a cubic foot. So we can send 3,400 basketballs past a single point every second down the Surplus Canal. And then we can reserve, up to 500 to 800 CFS in the lower Jordan before there's any issue. So we're looking really good on spring runoff at this point. So now we're going to switch our attention to monsoonal season. We get a lot of rains. The monsoonal season, we can get these big, heavy downpours. I remember July 26, 2017 at 4 a.m. I burned in my mind that was the time. We had a big rainstorm up in Upper Sugar House, or kind of up on the foothills there, that put down a 200-year event in a very short time. That caused flooding that came down and caused some localized flooding. So the monsoonal events can cause localized flooding. So I'd say if anybody out here is concerned about that, just think about your own home. What's it look like? What are your gutters like? Are they cleaned out? Are your downspouts pointed in the right direction? Do you have gutters on, or is water going to go into your window wells? Remember, one person called me after that big storm. My basement's flooded, and they're not looked, and their water was coming from their roof into their window well, into their basement. So that could have been mitigated if they just properly, worked on their own property. So just look for low-lying areas if you have kind of reverse grades going back towards your house, or driveways that flow back towards your house. That would be a time for concern if you get a big localized storm right in the middle. But as far as the canal system and the ditches out here in the lower Jordan, we have lots of capacity to take some of this. So that's kind of a real quick summary of runoff season. There's a lot more to it, a lot more planning. But again, the weather really cooperated with us this year. And all our planning wasn't for nothing. We'll implement it next year or the year after that, but we've got some really good things going moving forward. One of the big questions people have is, how did this year differ from 1984. So I don't know if any was around the 84 floods. What happened there is we also had a big snowpack, a lot of snow came down at once, but the City Creek culvert that goes underneath North Temple actually collapsed and blocked for about 3 or 4 blocks. Thus, all of City Creek had no place to go but out onto the city streets. That's where it was diverted down. So that's all been replaced since then. We've got catch basins on City Creek. We've got detention basins on Immigration. And by we, I mean Salt Lake City Public Utilities in coordination with Salt Lake County. They kind of manage the creeks. And then we've got reservoirs up in Parley's Canyon that we can use to mitigate flows that really help out here in the lower Jordan, because if the creeks are all running high, we can actually hold back Parley's Creek until the flows mitigate from Red Mead, Immigration, or City Creek, and then let the water out later on so we don't get a big peak coming down the lower Jordan. So we kind of balance that out. So I'd say from spring runoff, we're continuing to watch. We still have about 14,800 filled sandbags we just didn't use for all of our planning. I'm holding on to those until all of the runoff's done, just in case we do get some odd event. But again, I think we should be holding on to them, and we'll hold them for the next years until the bags rot out. We've got all protected there.
Before the meeting, I got a question on sandbags. What can residents do with them when runoff season's over?
So Salt Lake County Flood Control is going to set up 2 locations. One of them is going to be at Sugar House Park, and the other one at Rosewood Park. And so that will be a place people can go drop off their unused sandbags, and then Salt Lake County Flood Control will probably help them out. We'll collect those and take them over to the disposal. And I can send you the dates of those. I don't have that on my
The Sugar House Park has already started. It started on June 16th, and Rosewood Park starts tomorrow.
That's tomorrow. Okay. I thought it was next week.
And how long will it go?
About 2 weeks.
So I'd say if you've got sandbags, again, I'm not overly concerned about the lower Jordan. I'm gonna have a hole in my head pretty soon, Mark, and I don't want to say things like that out loud. I'm not going to word, but I think we're looking pretty good on the lower Jordan. And if there is issues, we've got 14,000 stockpile for utilities to put.
Thank you.
Anything else you want to talk about?
If you can just cover the rate increase for public utilities,
Yeah,
and it
so-
just high level, because when Councilmember Pui gets here, we can direct questions to him.
So the mayor's budget was just approved by council in the last week or so. It goes into effect July 1st. Salt Lake City Public Utilities has 4 different enterprise funds that we operate. They all work independently. There's sewer, drinking water, stormwater, and street lightings. And when I say that they operate independently, I can't take water money and use it for sewer or vice versa. With just the economy the way it is, and with aging infrastructure and infrastructure demands we have going on and projects coming up, we are having rate increases this year. I believe it's 15 in sewer, 18 in, I actually got it here, so I'll tell you about that. 18 in water and 10 in storm and 10 in street lighting. So that's been approved. We've got a lot of information on our website. You can just through and see how that would impact your bill. We kind of did some scenarios for some, say, a low water user to a high water user. You can kind of see what that would do. And so as an example, for kind of that average residential sewer bill, is $1.77 to $13.28 a month. So depending on what your winter water use, that's how your sewer bill is calculated. That would be your increase. And then water's $3.93 to $34.91, depending on which tier of water you're in. We do a tiered structure, so the more you use, the more you pay per.
Thank you.
But again, a lot of information on the website, and mailers went out a couple of weeks ago.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to Josh at the mayor's office.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
My name is Josh. I'm a community liaison in the mayor's office. Our team, we're sort of divided geographically based on the district. So I'm the liaison for districts 1 and 5 primarily, but we had the liaison for District 2 leave in April, and so we did hire a new person for that position. Her name is Alicia. And she comes to us from the Salt Lake City School District and having worked as a family and community specialist there for a few years. And so she has a lot of experience working on the west side, and she's excited to work with District 2. And she'll also be working with District 3. And she was at a different community council meeting tonight, so she'll be here at the next one. You'll get to meet her. And also this Saturday is the Seven Canyons Trust event at the Three Creeks Confluence called Beer at the Confluence. We're gonna be there. I'm gonna be there, and Alicia is gonna be there too. We're actually tabling, not well for the mayor's office, but more for Love Your Block, programs. So look for us there if you go to that event this Saturday. But as Jesse mentioned with utilities, that the mayor's budget was passed. Well, the council passed it this month and goes into effect July 1st. The city council website has the information about the budget and details about that. And so there's a lot of details in it, a lot of things in the budget, so I'm not going to go over it right now, but that's available online. And then from our public lands department, they're going to be doing some drone shows this 4th of July holiday. Well, one drone show for the city that's going to be at Jordan Park on Saturday, July 1st to start at 10 p.m. But events sort of start at 8 o'clock with food trucks and music and stuff. And so that's going to be happening July 1st. And then for the 24th, that'll happen on that day at Liberty Park. And these drone shows is the first time that the city's done that. And there's a local production company that I've heard does a really good job with drones. So look forward to that. And then if there's any questions related to that, Public Lands has that on, shared information about that on their Facebook page. It's also on slcityevents.com. So you can find information about that. I think that's about all I have right now. Only thing I mentioned, of course, is a number of surveys the city runs on slc.gov/feedback. You can find the feedback community page there and current surveys that are running. And then feel free to reach out to our office with any questions or feedback or concern. And we're happy to help. That's all I have right now. Are there any questions? Yeah, what's happening? So the drone show, it's a drone light show. That's in place of a fireworks show. Since the city's not doing an official fireworks show, that's going to be what takes its place on July 1st.
You said there's one at Liberty Park as well. What day? 24th. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
And it starts at 8 and there'll be food trucks and stuff.
Yeah, 8 o'clock, and then when it gets dark around 10 is when they actually start the show.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh.
Okay, thank you.
Fire department.
Okay, I'm Mike Workman, firefighter engineer from Station 14, California, 30 acre west. Thanks for having us again. First, we're going to talk about big thing coming up with fireworks. So fireworks ban will be in place again. Anything west of Redwood Road is no fireworks. Anything east of 900 East, no fireworks. North of South Temple, up in the avenues, no fireworks. All city parks and golf courses, no fireworks. And also 2 blocks east and west of the Jordan River Parkway Trailway, you can't have fireworks, or you're not supposed to. There is, this is kind of a little fireworks zone. If you have it, we have these on signs that we can put out. We have 10 of them right now. If you guys would like more, we can request them and get them to you. These are best used in high traffic areas. So intersections where here by the 7-Eleven where multiple people can see it. Also on the Salt Lake City Fire website, slcfire.com, there's a map, an interactive map. You can go in and see the actual firework ban site. and kind of bring it up and see exactly where it is. Also for June, so that's when fireworks. You're not supposed to light them off, but a day or two before 4th, up until like 10 o'clock, and then on July 4th, I think it's up to midnight. You can light them off, maybe it's 11.
It's still noise ordinance times, but yeah. How it goes.
So, our newsletter came out, I left kind of here, basically talking about pet care in the summer, taking care of your pets. People like take their pets in cars, well, some sort of let them take them in the store. They leave them in the car, we get called. We're glad to come and let the dog out, or the pet, or the children. We're okay with doing that, but there's some guidelines we need to kind of follow if you're calling. We need to tell the dispatcher kind of make, model of the car. There's signs to look for on the pets. If the dog's really, panting, looks in distress, definitely call. Because if it's 70 degrees outside, it could be 100 degrees in that car just because of the sun coming down on it. So it's kind of, June is pet, take care of your pet. Pets month. We talked about pet preparedness month with, also you have, in case of a disaster, what you should do in this newsletter. Make sure you have enough pet medicine. People won't think about that. How are you to evacuate with your pets? Things like that. So that's all in our newsletter. You can also find that on SLCfire.com.
So that one's kind of patchy right now. They're working on a new system for the archives. We still have last month's newsletter. We're working on a new system, so hopefully that'll be back up on the website. It's just not accessible right now. If you were to email us through our go to SLCfire.com and you contact us or request it, we can send you a link to it.
One thing about if you take it upon yourself to break a car window to rescue a pet, Utah does not have a Good Samaritan law in place for that at this time. So you can be held liable for issues. So get the police officers involved, get us involved, and we'll come out, get into their car, things like that. Again, taking care of your pet preparedness month. Make sure you have enough food and water for up to 96 hours, not just for you, but for your pets. Make sure you have enough pet medicines. Make sure you know where their shop records and important paperwork are for them. And if you do have it, make sure you have an ID collar on your dog's or cat's collar. Any questions?
I have a question. I don't know if it's appropriate for this venue, but how long should smoke detectors be working in the home? I mean, you replace the batteries every 6 months or whatever. How often should they be
Most
replaced?
smoke detectors are, the paperwork when you first open it, they're good for 7 to 10 years.
Okay.
A lot of that's manufacture date, so it can be on the shelf for 2 years before, so you could lose it. 7 to 10 years is average.
Sometimes as well, it might say on the underside of that, before you install, there'll be a sticker that says expires on or replaced by.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to have batteries in it for that expiration, that the sensors in there, they're constantly becoming weaker from the day that they're produced till the day they're disposed of, so.
Ours are hardwired and they just start going off
Those,
all the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
those also expire. So
Okay.
usually they have a battery backup as well.
Okay.
So, any other questions? Okay,
I don't see any. Thank you.
thank you.
We'll move on to Detective Oliver.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, I'll usually like to start with any questions or concerns so we can kind of go from there. Does anybody have any questions or concerns?
I don't see any in person. Any online? I don't. Why don't we just have
All
you?
That makes it easy. Okay, just so some of the comp stat numbers for this month. District 2 has seen a decrease of 18% in violent crimes, which is year to date is pretty remarkable. even though we have one more homicide this year in District 2 than we have had last year, down 18% is pretty good, and we would like to see that continue to go down. Our 5-year average, we're down 13%, so a little bit of a drop, but that's still really good numbers we like to continue to see. We do see a little bit of an uptick in domestic violence in District 2. That's also year to date as well as a 5-year average. So that's a hard one to look at. As far as property crimes, we're also down, crazy enough, 32% in District 2 in property crimes. That includes burglaries, larcenies, motor vehicle thefts, things like that. Our motor vehicle thefts year to date is a surprising number to me. We're down 47%. We averaged up to this date 265 stolen vehicles in District 2. We're only sitting at 138 right now. That's crazy to me. So that's a good number. I hope we can continue to see that. So on our 5-year average, we're still down 28% in total property crimes. Grand total, we are down 30% in crimes year to date, which is pretty remarkable. Last year at this time, we were sitting about 1,276 crimes. We are right now at 885. I want to knock on wood because those numbers are really good and really effective. That's just for District 2. As far as citywide, we are still down 17% in total crimes year to date. So citywide, we're usually sitting around 7,200 crimes up to right now, and we are only seeing right now 5,961 is what we are through 6/18, which was 3 days ago. So the numbers are looking good. I'm curious as to what you're seeing in your neighborhood, if you're seeing a little bit of difference, because as far as numbers go, we'd like to see that. I just want to stress, though, that we need to continue to call in if you do see something occurring, because we do go off a CompStat model, which is based on hotspots. So if there continues to be crime in a certain area and it's not getting called in, we're not going to see that through the hotspot CompStat model. So if you do see something, please call it in, and just be aware that that's how we are policing right now. Good news, we do have officers in the academy. We have some officers in the field that are almost out of their field training. So we are seeing officers coming in, but unfortunately we are still down. I think the last count was over 40 officers. So that's where we're at. Any questions, concerns that those numbers brought up?
I don't see any here in person. Before the meeting, I heard on 2 different issues. The first I wanted to raise with you is I've heard from about a half dozen residents that the area near the boat launch at Raging Waters, there's a lot of RVs there. There've been several noise complaints and folks worried about fires and things like that. So just wanted to flag that.
Okay.
And then the other is street racing. If you could kind of just address how street racing is dealt with by the police department.
So sure. I've been tasked with trying to solve the street racing issue. It's been going around for decades, so I don't know that I'm ever going to solve it. But the street racing really is the biggest on the weekends out in the industrial area. So everything from I-215 south to the 201 for the city, but it does go into West Valley, it does go into Taylorsville, it goes all over the place. We have implemented some things like putting some large construction plates down on the ground in the areas that they are populating for street racing. We are getting hundreds of cars out there Friday and Saturday nights and Sundays, and they're not just your average cars. A lot of the cars are actually being trailered in, and they're coming off of trailers. So we are still seeing it. Highway Patrol's been effective out there with us. We did do an op last year where I believe we impounded 20-something cars because of the new state statute, and we were able to mitigate it a little bit. It's just really hit and miss. So we do have those plates in place now, and we do have an officer that goes out there usually every weekend to try to at least push it out of the city, because it's really hard to enforce it at a level we'd like to enforce, though.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Don't see anything else in person. Anyone online? All right. Thank you, Detective Oliver.
Yeah, Turner, I'll just stay online too. So if there's any questions, just yell at me.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
We're going to move on to community organizations. We'll start with Craft Lake City.
Hello, my name is Belinda. I am the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Coordinator at Craft Lake City. Craft Lake City is a local nonprofit based in downtown Salt Lake, but you can find us everywhere in events. We also do a lot with the local schools. Our focus is to educate, promote, and inspire local artists by providing education and elevating the creative community through technology, science, and art. We host a lot of these STEM rocket launches that are at like local schools around the area, all the way up north and down in Utah County as well. And then we do have our 15th annual DIY Fest presented by Harmons that's returning to the Utah State Fair Park August 11th through the 13th. It's a really fun event. We are the largest local makers market. We have a STEM building that we partner with like the U, BYU, and all the big names in STEM. So that way they can also educate while at the fair. And then a part of our big section on our Saturday is our Kid Row area, which a lot of our Kid Row artisans come from our Youth Artisan Entrepreneurship Program sponsored by the Utah After School Network. We go to a lot of Title I schools. We have one Backman Elementary over in Rose Park, and we teach them business and art skills. So that way, when they go and present at the Kid Row area for DIY Fest, they're able to sell what they make. They're able to learn different ways to pitch, different ways to plan inventory, and it's great skills that they can take on as they get older. With DIY Fest, we have a lot of local music performers, dancers. So we try to enrich and exhibit as many different types of art to share throughout Utah. If you have any kids that are bitten by the entrepreneurial bug and they would like to showcase at DIY Fest, we do have applications for next year. Unfortunately, this year we're full, but next year in about January, we'll see those open up. So we would love to have all kids invited. If you do think that the Youth Artisan Entrepreneurship Program would be great for your school, by all means, please let your head of schools know that you'd be interested. We'd love to come out and grow our program to reach out to more schools. If you have any questions, feel free to email info@craftlakecity.com. Me amongst 20 other people check that email. We try to get back as fast as we can to make sure that we can help out as much people as possible. We're really hoping to get more involved with Glendale and other West Side communities. And so we really hope to be able to get more interest into our program. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. We'll move on to, do you want to do Sorenson? Evan?
Can I throw a busking bus pitch in there too?
Sure.
Okay, so my name is Lennon Krazik, and I work at the Sorenson Unity Center. And it's a center where it's our community center here on the west side, and there's tons of stuff happening all the time. Currently, we still have tax help. So if you make less than 60 grand and you haven't done your taxes yet, you can get your taxes done for free at the Sorenson Unity Center. You can check the dates on utahtaxhelp.com or just go into the Sorenson Center and talk to them. There's a couple of events happening. Immigrant and refugee awareness gathering with the mayor is going to be on Thursday, the 22nd, so tomorrow, at 9 a.m. You Serve Utah listening session. Assessing the community needs for effective services and volunteers. That's going to be on the 27th. And then next month on the 20th, there's going to be a livable streets feedback meeting. So if you have comments and you want to talk about the streets here in Glendale, then that would be a great meeting too. That's on the 20th. And then in August, on the 18th, there is a vocal fest for the West Side performers. So a bunch of it is hosted by Poplar Grove Community Council Chair is hosting the event to bring kind of West Side vocal performers to the Sorenson Theater, their black box there. And then there is the IRC citizenship preparation class that's happening every Thursday from 6:30 to 8:30. Team Mom Strong Planned Parenthood free support group every Tuesday, 5:30 to 7:15. And then the pool hours are now extended so that it will be a consistent time for anyone who is annoyed by the pool hours at the Sorenson Center. It is now 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. No jumping around, consistent hours. It's going to be great. Also, Zumba classes are happening Wednesdays and Saturdays. That would be Wednesdays 6 p.m. and 9 a.m. on Saturdays. So that is all of the events happening at the Sorenson Center. And then a pitch from my company Busking Bus Theater. We have 30 events happening this summer, mostly in Salt Lake City itself, a couple in broader Salt Lake County. They're free events. If you want to see a juggler, a magician, comedy troupe, puppetry, we've got every single hour we have a different performance group coming out. Mostly that's going to be every Friday on Main Street where the Galvin Center connects to Main Street. And there's a couple of Saturdays in there as well. And then we'll also have some performances during the 9th Street Market every Sunday. Hopefully we can enjoy some art, drum up some support for that market. They've been with us in the area for a really long time, and I would love to see them grow. So that's what's happening with Busking Bus Theater. So come check out a free show. Have a good time.
Thank you. Sean, I saw that you're online from Sorenson. Do you have anything to add?
Nope, Landon did it good. Can you hear me? I shared the screen just to list it. I don't know if it picked up in time or not.
It did.
Ongoing stuff, come on in. Landon mentioned the pool hours have expanded. The summer programs are full for kids. It's if nonprofits or individuals need meeting space, we'll do rentals for private events, but community meetings, we've got an application process and do our best to provide space. Landon brought up kind of the public things going on. We have private things happening that aren't invite, but there's graduations and other things happening. So that's all, Turner. Thanks for the opportunity, and we'll keep coming to this and updating. I jumped in late, but Landon was going, so all great.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Yep.
Diane, do you want to give your update?
Yeah. Should I go up here?
Yeah.
So some of you might know that Congressman Chris Stewart is resigning. So there are candidates trying to get on the ballot, and I am looking for people that are registered Republican that would like to see a moderate candidate on the ticket, and I am supporting Becky Edwards. So if anyone would like to sign a petition, she needs 7,000 signatures by July 5th to be on the ballot by petition. So anyway, get in touch with me. Should I get my phone number or what? What's the best?
Are you okay with that?
I'm okay with that.
Okay. What is?
You can call my phone number. It's 801-864-7443. And you have to be registered Republican and live in congressional district.
which is, I think, all of Glendale is in District 2.
I think.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Stephanie, are you still on? Stephanie, do you want to talk about Keep Glendale Beautiful this month?
Yep, I'm here. So, first of all, our June cleanup is going to be this Sunday at 10:30 a.m. We'll be meeting on Harrison. Is that what I had? No, on 1200 West between Andrew and Harris. So there's an entry onto the Jordan River Trail right there. My last meeting spot didn't have the best entry onto the trail. This one actually does have one. So yeah, 1200 West between Andrew and Harris, and we'll hop on the Jordan River and it loops around. So depending on how far we get, we might just easily be able to make that loop. So yeah, hope to see you there Sunday at 10:30. We'll have everything. So just bring yourself, bring your dog. It'll be a good time. Where did you guys go? Because now I'm looking at the map. And then the other thing is that I am stepping away from the Keep Glendale Beautiful and my position on the board starting in August for just a new path in life that I won't be able to continue on with this. So I'm actively looking for someone to take over Keep Glendale Beautiful. All the folks on the board really work hard at everything going on, and I would love to have a new face come in and join and help with that work. We actually have 2 open at-large board seats right now, and there will be a 3rd with my departure. So join the board, join Keep Glendale Beautiful, and I hope to see you on Sunday.
Thank you. And then one other update related to Keep Glendale Beautiful. We still have cleanup kits. If you'd like gloves and a garbage grabber, I didn't bring them tonight because I was in a hurry. But if you want to get in touch with me or anyone on the board, we can get you one of those. And I'll have them at our August meeting when we're back in August.
What is it, garbage grabbers?
It's just the little grabbers. And they're free.
You have the good one?
They're pretty good.
Yeah, they're pretty good. They fold up. We also have a cigarette litter prevention tube. It's just a dumb container that we got. But we have those and I'll make sure I bring them in August. Let's see. Our arts committee doesn't have any updates tonight, but we will have them in August for updates. Let's see. I think that's it. A couple of updates from the community council. We will not be having a July meeting. We're going to take a break for July. Historically, it falls right before the 24th of July holiday. So it's a bad time to try to get everybody together. We will be back in August. And then with that, let's get into the meat of tonight's presentation, which is our new active transportation plan. Paulo and Will.
So I can drive. So they're just like sit where you're sitting. Or
There's still more to say.
Oh, yeah.
Later at the end.
That meeting for the Keep Glendale Beautiful is Harris, between Harris and.
Between Harris and Andrew at 1200 West at 10:30 on Sunday.
In case you guys can't see me, do you want to turn off the audio there? So for everyone online, my name is Paula Aguilar. I'm the vice chair with the Neighborhood Council, and I'm going to be presenting some exciting, I guess, an exciting plan today that's tailored just for the Glendale neighborhood. And along with me, I have Will Goodread, who, when he joined us last year, he was a graduate student at the University of Utah, but I'll let you give a quick intro since you are a recent graduate from the program. So I'll let you just introduce you if you want
so
to.
I recently graduated from the City Metropolitan Planning Program at the University of Utah, the master's program there. And yeah, this was my professional project or thesis, so to speak, for my program. So excited to present to you all the work that Powell and I have been doing and a lot of the work we do with the community as part of that process.
Great. I'll shut the video now. I guess we could just be looped in from the main page there. So yeah, let's get this started. So an active transportation plan, what is it and why now? To answer the what it is, it's a long-term vision. It's like a guiding document for us, for the neighborhood, that outlines policies, programs, and infrastructure improvements. Think like bike lanes, sidewalk improvements, things of that nature to enhance the active transportation network in our community, meaning anything that is human powered, bikes, anything that allows you to roll. So wheelchairs, it's tailored for people of all ages, all abilities, strollers, and the like. And why an active transportation plan? Well, there's many studies that allude to like the many benefits that it brings to a community. In our case, we outlined a couple here on the screen: health, safety, equity, economic, environmental, and social benefits are just some of the few that we flagged that will be helping our community through the implementation of some of the recommendations that are coming directly out of this plan. So to start, we'll be kind of like covering how we got to this vision through the community and public engagement that was carried out in early February and March of this year. But the vision for the document is as follows, and I'll just read it here. Is that the Glendale neighborhood will support a safe and physically, socially connected neighborhood by allowing residents to safely and comfortably walk and bike for transportation and recreation. So again, we just want to make it an inclusive environment and neighborhood for people of all ages, all abilities. And more than anything, we want to just enhance the choice that people have when it comes to commuting to their destinations, whether it be for recreation purposes or commuting to their primary and secondary destinations. Work, school. Some goals that were outlined as a direct result of working with our early engagement with our steering committee, which we'll talk about here in a second, are as follows. We wanted to enhance the safety and connectivity of the neighborhood, allow for people to get to their destinations in a safe manner. Like there's no reason people need to be walking on a road without a sidewalk at this day and age in Salt Lake. And as we'll cover here a little bit later, we do have some sidewalk gaps in our neighborhood. So safety, connectivity. I touched on this a little earlier, but comfort for all ages and abilities. So we want to make sure that it's very inclusive for everyone. And third here, we have first last mile connections, meaning that we want to be able to enhance and aid people in getting in that first and last mile stretch to their destinations, whether it be to, school or work, even if that's just enhancing the connection to like a bus stop or a transit station. That's the idea there. And yeah, fourth here is connections to the trail system. We have a beautiful Jordan trail that goes north to south in our neighborhood. So enhancing the connections from the neighborhood to the trail was a priority in this plan. And lastly, filling in the active transportation network gaps, which we will be touching on here in a second. Here's just like a quick excerpt from the plan itself. Outlines exactly the same things, but this is just a quick snip to show that we do have a full document beyond, I think it's like 70, 80 pages that I will be working with our webmaster to get uploaded on our website. And I would invite everyone to take a look and submit any feedback that you may have as you read through the document, since this is a condensed presentation of that. Yeah, and just to touch quickly on the existing network, here's another snip from the plan itself, but I know it's not going to be like super easy to read, but it's a map that outlines kind of all the existing active transportation facilities in the network as of now. And so just invite you to take a look into kind of like what's going on as of now. Because there's like a network gap map that we show there too. But I'll just take a step back and let Will kind of like drive from here and tell us how we got.
Yeah, so as a key part of our process and the plan making process, we did an existing conditions analysis, which was looking at a lot of different factors in the neighborhood, such as demographic factors, as Paolo's already kind of touched on, what was the existing active transportation network and where might be some opportunities to plug that in. We looked at pollution. So I just kind of pulled out some key facts here. Obviously, there's a lot more to this, and I again, with Paolo, would encourage you to look at the document once it's uploaded. But some of the, I think, facts that really highlighted some of the need for some active transportation improvements in the neighborhood include the fact that, 38.6% of Glendale's population is what is age vulnerable, which is just to say that they're younger than the age of 18 or older than 64. So these are age demographics, that don't necessarily have the best access to an automobile, whether that's for legal or other reasons. Again, only 3.4% of Glendale residents walk or bike to work, which is about half of Salt Lake City overall. So that definitely suggests that, there's some inequities between Glendale as compared to the rest of the city. In addition to that, there are also higher rates of car ownership in Glendale compared to Salt Lake City as well, which suggests that there's a stronger need to have a car in this neighborhood as compared to other parts of the city, which might point to, again, a need for a little bit stronger, more robust active transportation network. And finally, definitely, I don't think any surprise to anyone here, the Salt Lake Valley as a whole struggles with pollution, but particularly in West Side neighborhoods. So Glendale is in the 98th percentile for PM 2.5 concentration in the entire state of Utah. And again, obviously, automobiles aren't the only source of that pollution. There are many, but even a stronger AT network allows more opportunities to remove some cars from the road and kind of start to address those pollution challenges. In addition, we also looked at crash data. So this was really helpful for identifying, where are some parts of the neighborhood that are particularly dangerous, especially for people walking and biking. So, there were 34 crashes between cars and people walking just between 2017 and 2022. 3 of those crashes were fatal. In addition, there were 27 crashes between cars and people biking in that same time period. 1 of those crashes was fatal. And so it probably is not a surprise to many of us that many of those crashes were located along what are known as, just along major streets and at major intersections, where there's not necessarily a lot of opportunities for people to safely cross the street or safely ride their bike, in those areas. So part of, and we'll get to the recommendations section here shortly, but part of what we wanted to focus on was addressing some of the safety issues for people walking and biking. So our public engagement process, I know some people here participated in our community open house, which we had in February, where we had a lot of maps and the like out for people to come and provide feedback on where they thought were opportunities for improving the active transportation network in the neighborhood. In addition, we had a steering committee. We met with them one time kind of early in the process last fall, and then most recently here in April, once we had kind of a rough draft of our plan to give us a little bit more feedback. And this was just to provide some initial steering as to where, where they thought would be helpful or what direction rather to take this plan. And finally, we didn't end up having to create our own survey, which was helpful because the Salt Lake City Transportation Survey is already out, and they actually had a lot of data from Glendale. And since they were asking a lot of questions that we would have asked in our own survey, we were able to pull a lot of data from there as well to get a better sense of, again, a lot of what we've touched on in the community open house and steering committee, but just what Glendale residents saw as both challenges and opportunities for active transportation in their neighborhood. So in terms of projects, there are dozens of proposed projects in this plan. I'm obviously not going to go through all of them right now. These are just kind of some broad overarching highlights, or just kind of some of the big, I'd say big ticket items that we proposed in this plan. But among those are protected bike lanes along the neighborhood arterials, which is just to say some of the major streets, right? Redwood, California, 900 West. Again, back to that crash data in particular, those were some of the areas that we saw a lot of these crashes with people walking and biking concentrated. So kind of facilities to just create a safer environment for people to access those walking and biking. In addition, proposed a lot more crossings, again, along these arterials using technology such as hawk signals. We'll have a brief glossary here just addressing some of that. And that's also, of course, included in the plan. As I'm sure many of you know, it's very difficult to cross some of the arterials in this neighborhood, like California in particular, right? There's not many opportunities, like there's huge gaps or huge distances that people have to walk between crossings, which can lead to unsafe behavior as people will just try to cross in between those crossings. So if we can avoid that and avoid crashes, that's great. And then finally, this is a little bit on the edge of the neighborhood, but the intersection 800 South and 800 West, there were a handful of crashes that were concentrated in this place. And again, this is, despite being a relatively major intersection, it's not very well served by crossing points and the like, so it can be a little bit difficult for people to get through it.
Great. Here's another snip from the plan that you guys can expect. We provide an active transportation facilities glossary to highlight exactly what it is that we're referring to. I mean, it's easy to kind of like get stuck in the jargon with like planning terms. So we do our best to make this as public facing as possible and to like highlight with definitions what some of our recommended facility types are. I know Will just covered some of the geographies that that we're recommending on, but in the plan we'll be covering the whole gamut of active transportation facilities that are appropriate for each of our roadways. An example here, we're just highlighting neighborhood byways, bike lanes, separated bike lanes, which Will alluded to on Redwood, California, Indiana. So well, there's a full breakdown there, and if there's any questions on what any of these mean, I'm happy to answer anything after the presentation here. But just an example of what to expect in the plan itself. So we covered linear improvements, which are in the form of your typical bike lanes and separated bike lanes. But this plan also covers spot improvements where there's a need to enhance crossings for safety, children crossing roads to get to school. And there's many design and engineering interventions that are appropriate for different uses. We also provide a glossary of what those mean and how they're applied and why they would be applied. So those are in there too, and happy to answer any questions that may come up with these. Here's another page also just highlighting some of the protected intersections, marked crosswalks and mid-block crossings that are highlighted in the document as well. Oops. And let me just squid out of this and zoom in on what the final map looks like for the recommendations. This is not going to be too great here. Let me see if I can zoom in here for the people in person. So sorry if you guys can't see too well, but we have on the legend here, I'll zoom in even closer. We have the entire gamut of spot improvements here on the left side on the legend, and they're represented geographically on the map on the right-hand side. So everything from your curb extensions to your hawk signals to your raised crosswalks, we pinpoint exactly on the map to show where we're looking to have these recommendations implemented. As far as the linear improvements, as part of this plan, we are recommending bike lanes, neighborhood byways, and protected bike lanes, also known as cycle tracks. So this is where I would encourage everyone to really take a deep dive into the document. It's all listed in here for your reference, but let's just get back into the presentation. And Will, I don't know if you want to just give a
Yeah,
quick
so-
brief on what this looks like in the plan.
Yeah, so once you're in the document and get to the recommended section, in addition to the maps that Paolo has already touched on, all of the projects, one by one are listed out here, as well as, so partly it's the location, the type of project, and some of the justification for that project, whether that's pointing to crash data, particular high traffic volumes on a particular street that wouldn't make it safe for someone to walk and bike. And in addition, we prioritize the projects, which again is partly based on some of this data, but is also based on some of the feedback that we received as part of that engagement process as well, to kind of decide, you know, obviously with some, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but let's say for the, you know, some 40 some projects, not all of them can get implemented at the same time. So we tried to lay out a little bit of a prioritization as to what should go first.
And that matrix is included in the document as well, for your reference. So I guess an important thing to touch on with a plan like this, I know it's easy for master plans to get created and for them to just get lost and lose momentum as we move on. So something that was really important to us was to highlight a implementation and funding chapter as part of this, because we do want this to be a realistic, for typical city plans, an active transportation plan can have a horizon of 5 to 10 year implementation timeline. That's rather quick in like the world of urban planning. And for us, since Salt Lake City has a great CIP application program, which Turner can talk about after we're done here. But there's many mechanisms for us to, for residents from the neighborhood to recommend projects that then the engineering department from the city would come in and vet and assign a cost estimation to, that then we could take through a funding cycle and implementation cycle. So we do want this to not just be a plan, we want it to be a guiding vision to help improve the quality of life for everybody in this neighborhood as fast as possible. So in the document, the way this looks like is we highlighted federal, state level, and local funding sources that we can tap into. And this is going to be an effort that we're going to be working with hand in hand with the Salt Lake City Transportation Department. This document is actually already in their hands. It's being circulated internally. And we're just kind of trying to get their blessing to see that, you know, everything is looking good from a logistic and feasibility standpoint. But once we kind of get their blessing to keep moving with this, the plan would be to start highlighting with our prioritized list of projects, you know, start highlighting which ones we want to get implemented and funded, you know, hopefully as early as, you know, within the next year or two. So I'll leave it there for now in case there are any questions, but I'll be working with Jenny right after this to just get an uploaded draft that can be shared with everyone. If anyone here wants the document, I'm happy to, yeah, I'll send it to you.
Is it appropriate to make a comment now, or do you want me to talk to you privately later?
Whatever you prefer. If it's a comment question, happy to, this is sort of like the
I'd like
end.
to make a comment for public consumption for the four of us here. A couple more. I have made this comment before about transportation plans, but it's impossible for any normal person to be at every one of the opportunities for public comment on every plan anywhere. And my attention is divided now that I have a second home in South America. But I will say this again and ask the two of you to think about this, although I appreciate that it is probably much too late to make any change in the plan. But as I understand this plan, and I can't see the map all that well,
right,
that you showed of the active transportation system, but it seems to me, from what I'm hearing, that it is going in the same direction that it had started out from, which is to concentrate alternatives to cars in the same corridors as the cars. And what we've chosen to do, for example, on 9th West, is we have limited the number of lanes for cars, thus increasing the traffic, because it's going through a narrow narrower gap, a narrower aperture. And we're trying to put in bike lanes on the outside of a parking area for cars, where we have a huge strip of 20 feet or something like that on 9th West. Immense piece of ground that you could put the bike lane not on the street, or not adjacent to the street, or not outside of where cars are parking. I myself have taken the door of a car in the groin while passing a parked car that opened.
Yeah, that's not fun.
This is just not safe. It's not safe at all to put all of this into one package and try to force more and more traffic through these arterial routes that are not wide enough to begin with, or not wide as they started out being, and then pack in bikes without taking that parking strip for them. So the whole thing seems wrong to me. I think at this point, it's probably too late to rethink it, but I would suggest this. You're talking about byways. I don't know what that is or where they are, but I think that bike traffic should be focused away from the arterial car traffic, because that's just a recipe. You know, cars parked, bikes zooming by, cars over here, you got cars on both sides, risk from both sides. Why not rethink where we're placing the bike lanes so that they're on quiet residential streets, but have signage and, if necessary, an actual defined lane, so that they're designed to connect to the necessary site where a biker would want to go, the big stores that we have in our neighborhoods, the couple of tunnels under I-15 and I-80, you have to go through them. You have to. So if you connect those pinch points and the schools and the, I don't know about churches, maybe the churches and other community amenities that are important to everyone, including bikers, we're going to have a lot more bike traffic. We have, I think, distressingly low bicycle use. And I think within the next 30 years, we're going to see the economy crash because of global warming and a peak everything, environmental problems. And what we're doing is not sustainable. We're borrowing money to pay for all of this infrastructure, and just borrowing and borrowing and going further and further in debt as a country. You cannot do that indefinitely, even if you're the United States and you can control the world economy in certain ways. So I see that coming apart. I see people not being able to own cars becoming more expensive with electric cars. You save money on the fuel, but you spend more for the car. And we've got this massive transition to take all on borrowed money from China or global rival. So I'm thinking people are not going to be able, we're going to have many more homeless people. That's another thing I'd like to talk about here. Many more homeless people.
There's a question on expanding sidewalks that I think goes to one of your original points.
I have asked that question.
Although
I'm providing background logic that brings you to that question. The question is, can we not redesign the system to separate dangerous car traffic from vulnerable bikers?
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let Paulo address the question on site.
Yeah, well, I'm probably taking more time, but it's like we don't have people lined up to speak first. So.
I'm happy to discuss with you after, and I think you do bring up great valid points here.
Continue.
Thank you. So Andrew Johnson's question is, any discussion about advocating for increasing the width of sidewalks? The city has a minimum width, but because of cost, generally isn't increased outside of downtown or Sugar House business districts. And then I think there's a follow-up there that it can overlap with current statement about reimagining, eliminating park strips. Yeah, so I guess as a baseline for some of the sidewalk gaps that we addressed, at a minimum, we're meeting the 5 to 6 foot criteria. As far as what it would look like to have a larger minimum width than that, that's something that I think would encroach on some of the right of way and require major road reconfiguration on some of the streets. I know we flagged 1700 South as a major corridor that needs sidewalks. So just to answer your question, Andrew, we're just recommending for any of the sidewalks that are just currently missing 4 to 6 feet, just to fill those in, just to kind of get a baseline of a complete pedestrian infrastructure network in the neighborhood. So let me know if that answers the question there.
And I would just add, we also addressed curb ramps that are currently not ADA compliant or just non-existent altogether as well, to kind of help with the gap as well.
And thank you, Sean, for sharing that note on the intersection traffic calming measures. I do plan on attending that to kind of coordinate any efforts that may result out of that with the plan here. Like I said, we'll be uploading this plan online for any public input. I would still highly suggest if there's any questions or concerns about the plan to just send them my way, and I'm happy to continue the discussion there. But yeah, this is something that's definitely going to be ongoing in the coming months, and there'll be more updates from the Transportation Committee and following neighborhood council meetings as the plan, some of the projects out of this start to materialize. So leave it there. Yes.
I just don't feel safe. So I don't know, if that's also a deterrent. I mean, I find plenty of streets just right on that I can go non-commute time and not feel unsafe, but like if I take my bike there, I take my bike there.
Yeah, that's a very concern. One of the chapters that we have is also a recommendation policy chapter, and one thing that we wanted to address, that we did address in the plan, was enhanced bike parking in the form of a development policy. So there's more information on that, but it is a concern that we agree with. It's something that we have to work with developers on as new development comes into the neighborhood, that we can attach this policy to increase the level of, or the amount and magnitude of bike parking in the neighborhood, because it is a concern. And I would hate for that to be the deterrent for people to get out on a bike and get to their destinations if they're just worried about bike parking. So something that definitely gets addressed in the form of policy recommendation in the plan. Is there? No, that's it. And I see, is there anything else online? Fully agree with ensuring accessibility for all. Yeah. Great. Well,
I think Ray's point was very well taken. Like I compare, I ride everywhere on a bike, that's for commuting, and I compare my experience riding on the 9-lane trail from my house to 9th, even 9th and 9th.
You want to switch your microphone info real quick and repeat what you just said?
Yeah, so I was just saying Ray's point is well taken. I commute everywhere by bike. And if I don't bike, I pretty much walk. But I compare my experience riding along the new 9th South, where I'm like off of the road. I'm on a separated bike trail. And the thing for me is that it's wide enough that other users are also safe on that I'm not weaving in between people that are walking. I think that point is very well taken. I think one of the things that this plan incorporates is just a desire to be pragmatic and work within the existing system. But I think you're right in that we need to prioritize safety to the point where we're expending resources in a way that get people completely away from cars. It's like 900 West is just an absolute nightmare. And when you look at the data on where accidents are occurring, it's in all of those places where pedestrians are put into direct conflict with vehicles. And we have I think the other thing that came out of this for me is looking at the low ridership of bikes in Glendale. It's not even about personal choice. It's about the way that our neighborhood was built. It was designed with cars in mind, designed with cars to be in mind for the future and for the past. And so we get what we build. And the behavior of our, not behavior as if residents are acting in any kind of negative way, but I think form, the behavior follows the form that the neighborhood was built in. And one of the other things that we hoped to get to through this was a better connection to the Jordan River Trail, because I think that is such an underutilized resource in terms of transportation for people. That was one of the main goals of the plan. Thank you, Paulo and Will, for your presentation. It is like 78 pages. And Ray, I will email you the document directly, and I'd love your feedback on it.
To add to what you said, if you might think about the fact, I don't know if there's another part of this city anywhere that has an off-trail north-south line. It actually goes all the way across Salt Lake Valley, and an east-west that's going to go much of the way across the city, if not the valley. And those can become arterial funnels for bikes, for pedestrians. That, and another thing we're gonna have to deal with is electric bikes, right? And they're gonna be up to 20 miles an hour. That another whole issue that I don't know if you've looked at that or thought about that. It's got to be in there. But as we see the electric bikes come on, many more people are going to be able to commute by bike. And so what I'm suggesting is, yes, we have to be practical. We only have so much money, but maybe we should be spending that not on these arterial routes, especially when we're closing them down and narrowing them down, but rather either appropriate the parking strip or much better. Let's go to a system of identified routes through these quiet residential streets that funnel people onto these east-west and north-south arterial off-street bikeways that we already have. Nobody else in the whole city, probably in the whole state, has that right now. And we're way ahead, and we could be getting much more bike use. And the reason I went into a monologue about the future is I really think if you guys think about it, that's what's coming. People are not, okay, you might not agree about the economy, but I have been studying this for 10 years, and I'm piling up information about the intersecting global environmental and resource depletion problems. And you just can't convert the whole economy on deficit spending and then run out of lithium because you based your, these things are not going to work as quickly and efficiently as we'd like them to, and we're deficit spending, and you can't do that forever. What's going to happen is the economy is going to crash, even as population continues to skyrocket, and we're going to have climate wars and water wars and so on that are even much more extreme than what we have right now. What's going to happen to the average person? They're going to be pushed out of their city by flooding water from the ocean. If they're on the coastlines, many huge metropolitan areas are going to be shut down by flooding. The cities are going to run out of water. We've drained the fossil aquifers. It's going to be ugly. And we're going to see more homeless people every single year. And those people and normal people are going to become homeless. We'll have a huge homeless population. And how are those people going to get around? What are we going to do with them? That's another thing I'd like to talk about. I don't think we have time. I'll stop talking now. But I just wanted to make these points and lay them in your consciousness so you will think about them a little more in the future. Sorry.
Thank you.
I have a question on using the park strips. Who owns the park strips?
Who owns?
I mean, who owns
the
the
parking
park?
strip?
Who owns?
That's a great question.
I'm asking these guys.
I don't think it's the
Who owns the
homeowners.
park?
I don't
It's the
think-
city.
Does anybody know?
The city owns the park
Yeah.
strip.
Yes.
So if they did use the park strip for a bicycle to increase area for a bicycle lane, they don't have to buy it from the homeowner or the business owner.
If there is a case where there's a recommended facility that would require road reconfiguration, not to incorporate them together in the park strip, that's.
And that's what they've done on Third West, right?
Yeah.
Basically.
Yep.
So part of like what would happen out of this plan is if, like, once the feasibility of the project looks good to the city, which from our initial review, everything that we're recommending looks good on paper, then they would send the engineering department to just double check that everything is working fine, and then maybe just whatever the results. I'm just thinking like Ninth West in this case, like if we wanted to add the separated bike lanes that we're talking about, yeah, we would just have to take a closer look and study like what exactly would have to be incorporated from the park strip to accommodate enough travel lanes, enough like, protected, like natural protected facility like you see on the west, or bikes traveling in both directions, plus your park strip, plus your your complete street with but nice sidewalk. That's what we would want. Sure.
If I may, I have a question, I'll be brief. Has our county transportation, or your neighborhood transportation, city transportation plan allowed for where traffic will go if we continue to narrow down the arterial streets, which I believe is planned for California Avenue as well as those are the two main axes through this neighborhood.
Yeah.
Where is that traffic going?
Hopefully they'll get the idea that driving is not the best way to go.
Well, yeah, but if you, I mean, has someone studied the car utilization, the need for commuters to get to work from this neighborhood to downtown or wherever they're going, and how we now handle that? Because we constrain these streets, I believe, for a few very loud private residents who have bought in low or maybe have lived there forever on these grand mansions along 9th West.
No, I think.
And they wanted their neighborhood, their front yard to be quieter. I do too. That's why I bought a house on a dead end street.
No, I think they did it to help make, more room for bicycle lanes and less traffic and less racing down.
We don't see this
Like
happening
connected-
in the ridership.
Connected, less racing down Lake West.
And less racing.
Yes, right? Didn't they do it to help it decrease the drag racing down Ninth West? Because if you only have one lane, it's hard
I
to
don't know
drag
where
race.
that's happening, but I hear it every night. You know, I don't think that a narrower street in the middle of the night is gonna stop anybody from drag racing.
I have many studies to share, where been proven in different cities, there's different case studies where clearing the road doesn't impact
Paul,
traffic volumes.
Will you unmute? And I'll mute.
Has that been
sorry.
accommodated in our plan? Where is that traffic going?
Well,
It's like the magic asterisk in the Reagan budget, right? It's like, we don't know where it's gonna go, but we're assuming this problem will solve itself because we're creating some bike lanes, right? There's no actual count of the number of cars and bikes and where it's all gonna be redistributed.
well, there are current counts, average daily traffic volumes that we have for every single one of the streets that we recommend facilities on. And I'm happy to share studies and just my body of
What would
knowledge that I
plan
pull.
be? I mean, you've got the fragmentation by level. Are those plans coordinated with each other in any way?
Plans from the city and the
From the
county.
city, the state, the county?
Yes,
the
yeah,
National Transportation Board, is all of this working in perfect synchrony? I doubt it.
in the context of our plan, we did take a heavy literature review on every single plan at the county and city level.
Off the top of your head, the question I just asked, where's the traffic that we close out of these other arterials going?
Just for my, like, it seems like this might be a private conversation with you and him about
It needs to be a public conversation if it's gonna have any meaning whatsoever. And I'm deeply disturbed that I'm hearing an answer to this question. I don't think there is an answer to this question. That's my point. Without an answer to this question, you cannot plan for the future.
But like he's saying there are studies, and then you're saying, I don't believe that there is enough information, and then he says there are studies. And so it seems like
All my experience with public lands planning tells me that agencies generally do not cooperate well with each other, even when they have separate.
And I agree that I want to have like as much public discourse as possible. And if you read the whole plan, and then we can talk about it at another community council where you're armed with the same information that he's armed with, that you're able to kind of have a discussion with the same information, then it seems like it might be a little more
Yeah, but how many different plans at different levels, each 70 pages long? Must I digest in order to understand this?
Well, we're just talking.
These guys are the experts. Please provide for the community council. This is just me asking an answer to the question I asked. Where is the traffic that's been pushed out of these arterial routes that are there for the reason to be arterial routes to connect important destinations in our neighborhood? Where is that traffic being pushed off to?
It doesn't get pushed off anywhere. It stays the same. Of like what I'm saying is reconfiguring the road won't impact traffic volumes like you're suggesting. And I can share studies that would suggest. So
What did you say? It will.
reconfiguring a roadway to accommodate bike lanes won't impact the traffic volumes. I feel like what you're suggesting.
Arterial routes, because I'm just.
Yes, I'm a resident of the neighborhood. I'm familiar with all of these routes.
And you've got the railroads. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna preach anymore. I apologize.
It's okay, and I'm happy to continue this discourse with you and share what I know and the bodies of research that I'm referencing. Because I live here.
It's not intuitively plausible that you can remove a lane, 2 lanes actually, and not have more traffic congestion, which would force people into other routes.
I would love and invite you to review the plan where some of these suggestions aren't removing traffic travel lanes. It's just merely accommodating travel lanes for cyclists and improving the right of way.
More narrower aperture. Just in brief. How would you, what causes that result?
I'm going to put an end to this conversation, since we need to wrap up.
Okay.
I would please review the plan, and please continue to engage with Follow. We do need to wrap up for the evening. I'd like to thank everybody for being here tonight. As a reminder, we will not have a July meeting. We're going to be back for our August meeting on the 3rd Wednesday of the month at 7 o'clock. And with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up. Thanks, everybody.